The animals of ancient Egypt were far more than simple creatures roaming the land, swimming in the waters, or flying across the skies. They were central threads in the intricate tapestry of Egyptian civilization. Every animal, from the tiniest mouse to the mightiest bull, shaped the economy, agriculture, religion, art, and even the Egyptians' understanding of life, death, and the cosmos. To the Egyptians, the boundary between the natural and divine worlds was permeable. A living falcon soaring above the Nile could embody Horus. A domestic cat prowling a granary could represent Bastet, and even a dangerous crocodile could be a messenger or guardian of the sacred river. Animals were symbols, intermediaries, and participants in the divine order, not merely companions or tools. The unique geography of Egypt, the fertile, life-giving Nile, bordered by vast, sun-scorched deserts, created an ecosystem where humans, wild creatures, and domestic animals coexisted in a delicate, meaningful balance. This balance shaped daily routines, agricultural practices, spiritual rituals, and even governance, reinforcing the Egyptians' belief that nature itself was alive, sacred, and communicative. 1. The River Nile and desert life, an ecological stage. The Nile Valley was Egypt's heartbeat, a lush oasis of green and blue amid endless golden sand. Its banks were vibrant with life. Hippos wallowed in the river's muddy shallows, while crocodiles slid silently beneath the surface, their eyes just above the waterline, ever watchful. Fish swam in dense schools, providing a vital food source, while birds of all sizes nested in the tall, swaying papyrus reeds lining the riverbanks. The desert, in contrast, was harsh and unforgiving, yet far from empty. It teemed with life in its own subtle way. Gazelles leaped across dunes, agile and alert. Foxes and jackals hunted small prey under the cover of night. Ibex clung to rocky outcrops. Snakes slid silently across the sand. The Egyptians watched these animals closely, observing migration patterns, hunting habits, and even mating behaviors, interpreting unusual occurrences as omens or messages from the gods. A sudden swarm of birds, or the appearance of a rare creature, might signal fertile lands, impending drought, or divine approval. The annual floods of the Nile brought animals closer to human settlements. Crocodiles sometimes wandered near villages, hippos grazed on riverbanks alongside human fields, and flocks of migratory birds filled the skies with noise and color. This proximity immersed the Egyptians in a living, breathing universe where animals were not merely observed but actively integrated into spiritual and practical life. Farmers calculated planting schedules by observing the behavior of birds and fish. Priests timed rituals according to the migration of sacred animals. Even medicine drew on these observations, as animal behavior informed knowledge about poisons, remedies, and fertility. For the Egyptians, every animal, whether wild or domestic, was a mirror of divine energy, a living interpreter of the universe's hidden patterns. 2. Cats, divine protectors of homes and temples. Among all animals, the domesticated cat, Felis sylvestris libica, held a uniquely sacred place. These graceful, silent hunters prowled homes, temples, and granaries, keeping rats, mice, and snakes under control, ensuring both survival and spiritual harmony. Cats were intimately connected to Bastet, goddess of home, fertility, protection, and joy. Bastet was often depicted as a woman with a sleek cat head, emphasizing the feline qualities of vigilance, elegance, and spiritual guardianship. Egyptians believed that cats possessed an almost magical ability to sense danger and evil spirits, guarding households not only from pests, but from unseen malevolent forces. The law was strict. Killing a cat, even accidentally, was punishable by death. When a cat died, families entered a profound state of mourning. They shaved their eyebrows, held ritual ceremonies, and often mummified the animal. placing it in special cat cemeteries with small treasures or offerings of food. These cemeteries, found in cities like Bastet, reveal that cats were not merely pets, they were silent, mystical guardians, treated almost like family members or minor deities in their own right. Cats were also depicted in art and amulets, reflecting their divine role. Egyptian women sometimes wore cat-shaped jewelry to invoke protection, while temple carvings celebrated cats as intermediaries between humans and the gods, essential for maintaining Mut, the cosmic order. 3. Cattle and bulls. Symbols of strength, fertility, and cosmic balance, cattle were the backbone of Egyptian agriculture, providing meat, milk, leather, and labor. Oxen were indispensable for plowing fields, transporting goods along the Nile, and even assisting in the construction of monumental works like temples, pyramids, and canals. Beyond their practical utility, cattle carried deep religious significance. The cow symbolized Hathor, goddess of love, motherhood, joy, and the sky. Hathor was often depicted with brown or black hair, golden horns, and the sun disk, embodying nurturing energy, abundance, and divine protection. The bull, particularly the sacred Apis bull, was revered as a living god on earth. Apis bulls were carefully selected by priests based on distinctive markings: a white triangle on the forehead, black spots, and other sacred symbols. Only the perfect bull could embody Ptah and later Osiris, representing fertility, strength, and the cosmic balance. The Apis bull's death was marked with grand funerals. Its body was mummified and buried in elaborate tombs, reflecting the belief that the bull bridged earthly and divine realms. People would gather to mourn, celebrate, and perform rituals, reaffirming the link between human society, agriculture, and the divine order. Bulls and cattle were not just tools or livestock, they were symbols of cosmic stability, sacred participants in the cycle of life, death, and renewal. Through them, the Egyptians connected the fertility of the fields with the will of the gods, ensuring that both people and nature remained in harmonious balance. 4. Crocodiles, fear and reverence. The crocodile of the Nile was one of the most feared and respected creatures in ancient Egypt. Its massive body, armored scales, and enormous jaws full of sharp teeth made it a natural predator capable of killing humans and livestock, yet it was also a sacred being linked to the divine. Crocodiles were associated with Sobek, the god of water, fertility, protection, and military strength. Sobek embodied the dual nature of the Nile itself, a source of life and nourishment, but also a potential agent of destruction. The Egyptians recognized this balance, seeing crocodiles as living symbols of the universe's duality, capable of both blessing and harm. In cities like Crocodilopolis, modern Fayum, crocodiles were kept in sacred temple pools, attended by priests who fed them ritual offerings, often including bread, meat, and symbolic items. Worshippers believed that by honoring Sobek through his earthly manifestation, they ensured the fertility of the fields, the abundance of fish, and protection from floods. Some crocodiles were mummified after death, a practice usually reserved for the most sacred beings. Their embalmed remains were placed in tombs with inscriptions invoking Sobek's protection. This extraordinary respect for a dangerous animal highlights the Egyptians' belief that every creature could carry divine essence, and that living alongside such predators required both fear and veneration. 5. Birds, messengers of the divine. Birds held immense symbolic and spiritual significance in ancient Egypt. They were often considered intermediaries between the heavens and the earth, interpreters of divine will, and sometimes avatars of gods themselves. Falcons represented Horus, the god of the sky, kingship, and divine vision. Pharaohs were considered incarnations of Horus, and their authority was reinforced by observing falcons in flight, believing these birds mirrored the king's vigilance and celestial insight. Ibis birds were sacred to Thoth, god of wisdom, writing, and time. Temples often housed hundreds or thousands of mummified ibises, carefully prepared and stored. Their presence in temple complexes reflected Egyptians' meticulous care in honoring knowledge and divine order. Vultures symbolized maternal protection, associated with the goddess Nekhbet, guardian of the king and of Upper Egypt. Their imagery adorned crowns and royal regalia, emphasizing care, vigilance, and sovereignty. The Bennu bird, resembling a heron, inspired the myth of the phoenix. It symbolized rebirth, renewal, and the eternal cycle of life, often depicted in temple reliefs rising from flames or water, a metaphor for cosmic regeneration. Birds were closely observed. Their flight patterns, calls, and nesting habits were used for divination, influencing decisions about planting crops, performing rituals, or declaring auspicious times for festivals. To the Egyptians, birds were living symbols of communication between humans and gods, a reminder that the natural world was imbued with sacred intelligence. 6. Snakes, guardians and symbols of danger. Serpents were ambiguous creatures, simultaneously wise, protective, and threatening, embodying the duality central to Egyptian cosmology. The uraeus cobra, frequently depicted on the pharaoh's crown, represented Wadjet, goddess of Lower Egypt. Its raised hood signified readiness to strike enemies, a divine form of protection and justice. The cobra was both guardian and avenger, ensuring the pharaoh's authority and the realm's stability. Apophis, Apep, the great cosmic serpent, personified chaos and destruction, eternally threatening Ra, the sun god. Nightly myths described Ra's journey through the underworld, battling Apophis to ensure the sun would rise. These stories were ritualized, with priests performing ceremonies, chanting spells, and making symbolic offerings to ward off cosmic disorder. Serpents exemplified the Egyptians' profound understanding of balance in the universe. Danger and protection, destruction and creation, chaos and order coexisting in one form. They were a daily reminder of vigilance, respect, and the sacred rhythm of life. 7. Lions, leopards, and exotic animals. Exotic animals were symbols of royal power, status, and territorial reach. Their presence in Egypt reflected both conquest and diplomacy, often appearing in royal menageries or temple imagery. Lions symbolized strength, courage, and solar energy. They were incorporated into the form of sphinxes, combining human intelligence with leonine ferocity. Lions were both guardians and emblems of divine kingship, often depicted flanking temple entrances or pyramids. Leopards and cheetahs were tamed and used in royal hunts, demonstrating elegance, speed, and refinement. Their inclusion in hunting expeditions highlighted the pharaoh's control over nature and ability to master even the wildest creatures. Elephants, monkeys, and baboons were sometimes brought as tributes from foreign lands, symbolizing Egypt's cosmopolitan reach and its interactions with distant kingdoms. Baboons, in particular, were sacred to Thoth, often portrayed raising their arms in worship toward the sun, symbolizing intelligence, ritual awareness, and the orderly rhythms of the cosmos. These animals reinforced social hierarchy, divine authority, and the Egyptian spiritual worldview, showing that mastery over nature was inseparable from political and religious power. 8. Fish, hippos, and the life of the Nile. The Nile River teemed with life, sustaining Egypt physically, spiritually, and economically. Fish were abundant, providing essential protein and playing symbolic roles in fertility and divine sustenance. Some species were considered sacred, and their consumption was regulated or forbidden in certain regions, reflecting religious observances tied to gods like Hapi or Sobek. Hippos embodied a dual symbolism. Male hippos were feared as agents of chaos, capable of devastating crops, boats, and riverbanks, representing the destructive power of nature. Female hippos, by contrast, were linked to Taweret, goddess of childbirth and protection. They symbolized maternal strength, fertility, and guardianship, a counterbalance to the male's destructive energy. During religious festivals and ritual hunts, dangerous hippos were sometimes hunted ceremonially, symbolizing the triumph of cosmic order over chaos, reinforcing the Egyptians' belief that human action could influence natural and divine balance. The Nile's wildlife, from fish to hippos, was thus both sustenance and symbol, reflecting the intricate connection between life, death, divinity, and survival in ancient Egypt. The Nine, domestic life and animal companions. In ancient Egyptian villages, towns, and even small farmsteads, animals were inseparable from human life, serving as laborers, protectors, food sources, and spiritual companions. Their presence permeated every facet of daily living, from dawn to dusk, and their roles were deeply intertwined with beliefs, rituals, and social responsibilities. Dogs were the most loyal domestic partners. Beyond guarding homes and livestock, they accompanied hunters along the Nile and desert edges, tracking prey with remarkable intuition. Some breeds, resembling modern Salukis, were prized for speed and agility. Dogs were also associated with Anubis, the god of the dead, embodying guidance, vigilance, and protection in the afterlife. In certain cases, dogs were buried alongside their human masters, a testament to their spiritual and emotional significance. Archaeological finds reveal graves where dogs were carefully positioned, sometimes with collars, jewelry, or small offerings, showing that Egyptians considered them members of the family and companions in both life and death. Cattle and donkeys formed the backbone of agricultural life. Oxen and cows pulled heavy plows across the fertile Nile soil, turning the rich mud into arable land. Donkeys transported goods, from grains to pottery, across villages and marketplaces. These animals were treated with respect, often fed first before humans, and in some cases adorned with simple, decorative items during religious festivals, symbolizing their contribution to sustenance and prosperity. Chickens, ducks, and other domestic birds were central to both diet and ritual. Chickens provided eggs and meat, while ducks were raised along canal banks, integrating agriculture with small-scale animal husbandry. These birds were also offered in temples as sacrifices, their flesh or feathers forming part of sacred rituals. The careful rearing and ceremonial use of these animals reflected the Egyptians' belief in a continuous exchange between the human and divine realms, mediated through living creatures. Animals in domestic life were never regarded as mere tools or commodities. They were companions, spiritual allies, and participants in the cosmic order. Families watched, cared for, and interpreted their behaviors, believing that health, fortune, and divine favor could be reflected in the well-being of these creatures. A sick dog, a stressed ox, or an unusually quiet flock might be omens signaling the need for ritual purification, prayers, or offerings. 10. Animals as symbols of the divine. In the worldview of the ancient Egyptians, every living creature carried divine significance. Animals were extensions of gods, embodying cosmic principles and teaching lessons about life, order, and balance. The falcon embodied Horus, symbolizing kingship, vision, and the sun's life-giving power. Pharaohs were seen as incarnations of Horus, and the falcon's vigilance mirrored the ruler's duty to maintain cosmic order. The cat reflected Bastet's qualities: vigilance, protection, and grace. Its presence in homes and temples was both practical and spiritual, guarding not only granaries, but the spiritual well-being of families. The hippo expressed duality. Male hippos were chaotic and dangerous, while female hippos reflected Tauret's nurturing, protective energy, symbolizing fertility and maternal care. The crocodile, tied to Sobek, represented the destructive yet life-giving force of the Nile, a living manifestation of nature's duality and the divine's unpredictable power. This integrated view of the animal kingdom shaped every aspect of Egyptian civilization. In religion, animals were central to worship, ritual offerings, and the embodiment of gods. In art, they were depicted in tombs, temples, and papyri with astonishing detail, often realistically, sometimes idealized to express spiritual truths. In medicine and agriculture, animal behavior guided decisions and symbolized health and prosperity. Even ethics and societal order were informed by observation of animals, reinforcing lessons about balance, loyalty, courage, and vigilance. Temples, tomb walls, and manuscripts portray animals not just as companions or livestock, but as living conduits of divine wisdom. Egyptians did not merely coexist with animals, they understood them, revered them, and wove them deeply into the fabric of civilization, creating a culture where every creature had a voice in the story of life and eternity.